go. Here we go. Where's my peoples? Miranda. Man, my watch is bugging me. Where is she? There she is. There's AJ. Whoops. There she is. There we go.
I wish that would go away already. It's really annoying.
I know. Brian's got it really bad, too. I'm clapping. Ashley, stop clapping. Seeing that part. Ready? I didn't mean to wave at AJ, but it waved at AJ. There she is.
Wow.
Look at you. Pretty.
I always try to get pretty on Sundays because it's when I record all my social media for the week.
Us too. We get it.
Me, I'm like,
But you're beautiful.
You know, it occurs to me, I don't have physical copies of the new book yet. I'm going to grab my iPad, though, because I have the digital copy on there. In case we need to reference it for any reason. I'll be right back.
Why not? So while she does that, we're going to introduce ourselves really quick. Welcome, everyone. My name's Ashley. This is my sister Miranda, and we're the Book Mash Podcast. We started doing this new thing where we go live on Sundays to sit down and talk with amazing authors like our friend AJ over here. We're so excited. We had AJ on season 1, and when we saw her name pop up for season 2, we said, you better accept that as a yes for season 2. So here we are. We got a wild hair almost a year ago and decided to create a podcast. For why, we don't know, because we had time for that. But here we are almost a year later, and we love every minute of it. So AJ, thank you for being back. So very much.
We had so much fun last time. We went way over our time.
It's exciting.
I know.
Excited. So, but yeah, you know the gig. The questions are fun. No pressure. Have fun. If you guys don't know us, Miranda creates some off the wall questions, and they're fun. So.
They're really good questions, too.
Well, I don't know. CJ said Miranda was slacking last week.
Last week, apparently, they were too serious. But we ended up laughing pretty good anyway, so it's all right.
AJ, do you want to give us a quick introduction to yourself and for people who don't know who you are? And
of course. My name's AJ Whitney. I am a Kansas City author. I write dark books for teens. And people sometimes will ask me, some people get kind of aggressive about at events when they see the dark books for teens sign. Why would you want to write dark books? Like, don't you want to write happy things and, like, you know, help kids be more positive? But the reality is that most teenagers go through dark times.
Yeah.
And that's the idea behind my books. Like, dark things are reality, unfortunately, sometimes. And I want to write books that help kids get there and help them understand that sometimes you have to go through the darkness to get to the light.
Love that.
I love it. No, when you sent us a copy of Sovereign to give away, I was like, do I give it away or do I read it first?
Did you read it?
I wanted to, but I didn't yet.
I feel like that's been the answer a lot recently for both of us is like, we've been in super mood reading moods.
I get that. I'm for sure a mood reader. And I'll start a book I really, really am like dying to read. And then I'm like, this is not it right now.
Right? Exactly. I've done that so many times recently.
But you want to read it so bad. So you kind of like set it right next to you and hope that it bites you again because you want to read it so bad. You're like Sovereign's downloaded and I'm like, I need to read it. I do so badly.
Oh, I'm glad you have it.
I need to read it.
You'll be happier to read it once the second one comes out, I think.
Well, it's you, so I'm excited to read it at all. So
thank you.
Welcome. But yeah, I'm a huge mood reader, and I could push through a book, but I don't think that's fair. And I could start 7.
You want to read it when you're going to enjoy it,
right? Exactly.
I can start 7 to 10 books, and not want, my dog is whining and driving me nuts, not want to read any of them. But then like I find one and I'm like, okay, I'm good now. But then I get in a slump because I can't find another book to read and it's horrible and I hate it. But what can you do?
It's life.
Right. It just happens sometimes, you know?
Like I have a whole stack right here of when I was trying to find my next read of all the books that I was, and I try to go like 3 chapters. No, it was bad.
You're like, throw this one out for now. Throw this one out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just can't do it.
Nothing against the book or the author. That's why I have a whole room, is because mood reader.
Yeah, that is a problem.
I'm gonna show you my messy house. This is like my TikTok wall behind me.
Yeah, me too.
Where I've got like I made these paintings there. I call them Murder Art because it's like blood splatter and if you could see the handprint. But I've got all my fun books. This is basically my TBR over here. But in my living room, we have like this little half wall in front of our stairs, and it has like $150 worth of used books over there. We sometimes will go like to half price books on a date, me and my husband, and leave a like, giant stack. We never remember to take a bag. We buy a bag every time we're there.
Maybe that's like,
And I'm like, when am I ever going to read all these?
to have to carry them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't buy it.
You would think that would be true, but we just spend another $2 on a tote bag, and they're always cute. So what can you do?
There you go. There you go. It works.
Okay.
All right. Well,
fun question.
yeah, like you mentioned, people that have read Sovereign, or maybe you haven't and you're excited to read it and jump into book 2 because book 2 is going to be available
March 17th.
Yes, it's coming up super fast. Don't forget also, AJ, you told us that you are giving away 3 signed copies of Elysium. So there's entries open until the 28th. So if you are not following AJ, go to all the socials, make sure that you are going on there. And the newsletter is a great place to get information. We have the newsletter coming into our inbox as well. So don't forget about that. But all right,
Yes.
AJ, like we learned last time, you are a high school counselor and a YA author.
Yep.
How do your worlds collide, and how does your work with teens inspire your writing?
I think working with teenagers helps me understand them better. And it helps me write things that they're actually going to be interested in, that make sense to them, that are relevant to their lives and fit their like actual situations. So in the first book, Sovereign, I said, and my picture is backwards, so I'm sorry, but this is the first book. When I turn on effects, it's just all blank circles. It won't actually load what they are. So I can't be sure what I'm selecting right now. Anyway, in the first book, Sovereign, the main characters are teenagers. There's also some adult characters that are pretty important to the story. But those teenage characters, they don't have a lot of agency. They don't get to make their own decisions. They have people making decisions for them. And I find adult readers get kind of frustrated with that because they're used to having control over their lives. But teenagers, right there in the teen years, they're not used to having that. They're used to being frustrated that they can't control their lives. And as we go through the series as well, I'll show you the cover for Elysium because I think it's gorgeous. No, don't do that. So as we go through the series, the main character she's starting to develop some identity. She's trying to figure out who she is, who she trusts, who she wants to become. And of course, that evolves throughout each book a little bit more and a little bit more as you go along. And there's a huge evolution of her character in this second book. You kind of see her go from, quiet and curious and questioning, wanting to know what's going on, to becoming this really confident kind of badass. But that's another thing that I notice teenagers go through. I mean, they're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying on different identities. They're not sure who they are or who they want to be yet. And I think things like that are things that I experience with my students a lot. And it makes sense then for the characters to experience that as well.
Was that you bring a lot of what you, oh my gosh, my animals, I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I have a dog scratching at the door. I have a cat scratching at the door. I have a dog howling. I'm home by myself. But that's one thing I really liked is how you kind of bring like your personal life, like what you actually experience through your career and write stories about it. Sorry.
Might sort of embed some counseling things. I mean, you can't have all good examples on a story or it's not an interesting story, but I try to embed like healthy relationships and healthy conflict resolution, where the main characters have some conflict, but they deal with it in an appropriate way, even though they're teenagers. My characters in the second book all go to therapy, and you'll understand why once you read the first book. You'll be like, oh yeah, these kids need therapy. But they do. They all go to therapy. And so there's just little tidbits. I try not to like overdo it. It shouldn't be overwhelming or over the top. But yeah, I have that knowledge. And so I kind of embed some of that mental health stuff in there lightly, just enough to be a good example for the students who read it.
I love that. That's so important because you don't get the underlying, like, needing to develop your character as yourself while you're reading about characters in a lot of YA books. So I love that you're able to incorporate that.
And speaking of the dark and twisties, so like you said, your books do explore that. What draws you to balance? Hold on, let me rephrase this. Your stories really explore the dark along the light, which makes them twisty and high stakes. What draws you to balance in YA fiction? Draws you to that balance? It's gonna be a long day. It's the dog.
I can hear her.
So you're asking me, how do I balance the dark with the light?
Yeah.
It can be a difficult line to walk. So I'll say my first copy of Sovereign, or my first drafts, I felt like were too light. And I had to, I was like, but when I had this idea, it felt more horror to me. But then when I actually wrote it, it was, you know, a little too nice and fluffy. And that wasn't what I was going for. So it can, I think it's tricky to balance. So I really had to go back and I had to put in like some foreshadowing, and I had to make some, you know, some scarier scenes in there because some of it needed to be light, but some of it needed to be scary. I didn't have as much struggle with that balance through the rest because, well, it's dystopian and it gets more dystopian. So there's definitely some dark things that happen in the second book. I mean, content warning, there's a lot of violence, but it's dystopian. So I think you expect that.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's a lot of like regular teen stuff, some regular teen drama. Like they're regular kids for a portion of time in each of the first two books. The third book is not out yet, but my publisher has it. And I'm told we'll be getting a cover ready soon. So we'll be really focused in on that third book early this next time. But the third book, of course, as a conclusion, it gets pretty heavy and very action heavy, right? Because that's what you I'll say the next book I'm writing, I know I talked to you guys about Never Say Neverland last time.
I've been thinking about this.
Yeah. I finished my first draft. I'm on revisions now. Anybody who's watching, if you didn't see the first time, Never Say Neverland is a book I'm working on. It's not contracted with a publisher yet, but it's a horror retelling of Peter Pan. So I try to write it in the original style of J.M. Barrie. I use direct quotes from the original Peter and Wendy novel. And man, that book was so much more messed up. He wrote it like it was a light, happy fairy tale, but he put such dark things in there and you don't notice because you're doing the fairy tale part. Well, I focused in on the dark parts. The trouble for me with this book is that it's so dark. And so I'm having the opposite balance problem as what I had with Sovereign, where I wrote Sovereign too light and had to darken it up. Now I'm having to put like... I'm having to go through and find sometimes where I can lighten things up because the first several chapters are kind of horrifying. Granted, it's horror, so they're supposed to be, but man, it can't all be dark or you may not get through the book.
Yeah, let's throw in a joke here and there and call
I
it
know,
good.
right?
Book off at us at like the middle to the end of the interview, like it was nothing. And we're like, what? What'd you just tell us? We're like,
it will be short though. I'll tell you that. It's probably going to be more like a novella. Right now it's sitting at 39,000 words and my goal was 60, but the original was 40. So I'm like, if I can only make it as long as the original, that's okay because it's an homage to the original work anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, dark and light
cool.
Can be difficult to balance. Yeah. And my books, if it's a series, it's going to end on a cliffhanger. And you're going to really wonder what. But I'll tell you, it's not terrible in the very end. So I like a mostly happy ending when I can get it. Though I can't promise that for Neverland. Right?
AJ likes it when you close the book and you're like, UTF.
Pretty much. I want you to be going, what is happening?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love it. I'm so excited. Well, let's focus in on the world of Elysium. So in Sovereign, orphan number 332's journey was all about survival and discovering freedom. How does her journey evolve in Elysium without giving spoilers?
Ooh, without spoilers. Oh God, no spoilers.
I know.
Do that when you end the book on a cliffhanger. As her journey evolves, well, like I said, like her character evolves. She becomes more of a badass. I know you guys may have questions planned for this later, so I hope I'm not pre-answering questions. But even so, that'll be fine, right? So I wrote an author's note at my publisher's request for the front of this book. And it's because, I mean, if you look at the cover,
I love it.
you might have a guess at what one of the characters looks like just from the cover. And you might, after you've read the first book, look at this cover and think, that's not how I pictured her at all. And I did this for really specific reasons. On the author's note, you know, if you read Sovereign and then you go into Elysium, you're going to see that author's note. And hopefully you'll read it. I gotta be honest, I usually skip them, but mine's not long. It's just a few paragraphs. When I wrote Sovereign, I wrote it for teenagers, obviously. And I wrote it in such a way that they could relate to and become any of the characters. So people really don't notice. I even had one review on this book early on where somebody said, I loved the descriptions of the characters. They were so vivid. Guys, I didn't describe the characters.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Literally, the main character, who the story is told from her point of view, you know that she has dark hair that she wears in braids. Her best friend has like chin-length blonde hair. And then one of the boys, who's also a secondary character, has gray eyes. That's about it. Like, I really didn't describe what these people look like. And I did that because when you read it, they can look like you. They can look like anybody. Anybody can become and relate to these characters.
I feel like we talked about that in the first interview too.
Maybe we did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But what I did in the second book is a little different. So in Sovereign, you've already become these characters. You've imagined that you're them. They are you. Unless you're my brother who read this and knew that that main character was me. He was like, yeah, that sounds exactly like her as a kid. And now I'm picturing my sister. But when I wrote Elysium, I had to expand this world that was originally really insular. And so we took it from the characters being you, being anybody you want them to be, to the characters being somebody specific in a very specific, bigger world. And in our current climate, there are a lot of tensions in a lot of ways in the United States. I wrote Elysium not when some of that was happening, or I mean, it's always been happening, right? But I didn't write it like 10 minutes ago.
Right.
However, I did write it with the intention of imagining a world that's gone beyond racial barriers, racial divides. I don't know if a world like that will ever exist, but I hope that it can. And I hope that people being able to read it in a book may inspire them to see what that looks like. And so what we actually do is we take a main character who we didn't describe in Sovereign, but when we get to Elysium, you discover that she maybe doesn't look how you imagined her. She doesn't even look how I first imagined her when I wrote when I first was writing the book. And she comes from a place where only one other person looks like her. And she finds herself somewhere new where she's seeing large populations of people who look like her for the very first time. And that in and of itself is a huge development and journey for her. And there's a conversation that some of the characters have just sometime in the first 10 chapters, I think, so fairly early on, where they talk about, you know, the racial history of the United States. And the characters that were really insulated weren't aware of any of that. And so they're learning that for the first time. And I actually have a couple of teen beta readers who, one of them is white, and she read that scene and she commented on, I was really uncomfortable. I didn't expect that conversation to be so heavy and I didn't like it. And I thought, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, we should be uncomfortable when we think about the terrible things that have happened. And so I really delve into the diversity of the characters in the second book and the idea that diversity is a good thing and that we already know that we can relate. We've already been these characters. And now we may find out that their skin or their racial background is different than we expected, but we already relate to them. And now we know they're more like us than they are different from us.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, everybody bleeds the same.
Exactly.
Oh,
Good stuff.
I got goose pimples.
I know.
I love you guys.
We're like your biggest hype man, man. I'm just kidding. But
I'm okay if
seriously,
I'm dinner.
Okay, so now we're gonna have a fun question. Now we got to the seriousness.
Oh, really? They're dark books, right? I put kind of heavy things,
It's fine.
but in a good way.
Yeah,
For good
exactly.
reasons.
If you could describe Elysium in just 3 words, what would they be?
How can I make this as mysterious as possible?
And chat, put yours in too.
Let's see. Describe Elysium in 3 words. Well, I would definitely say diversity, because we've already talked about that. This is such a hard question. Isn't that hard? Let's see. 2 more words.
Hard time with sovereign too.
always have such a hard time. I have the couple sentence blurb, but I don't have them memorized for Elysium yet anyway. Okay, diversity, secrets. This is a phrase instead. False safety.
Okay.
I've
got-
I tell you.
I know. I've got a few questions, but I also want any of our viewers to throw any questions that you might have for AJ in the chat, and then we will see if we can answer those as well. So first, what inspired the twist in Elysium without spoilers?
I know, because I always have a twist, right? I actually tend to have several twists. So what did inspire the twists in Elysium? I really had to think through this idea of these kids now being somewhere new and just completely the opposite of anything they've ever seen before. But I had to figure out how to lead them to where they really needed to go. And I fought with myself for so long about one character. Like, will he be a good guy? Will he be a bad guy? Will he seem one way and actually be the other way? And my poor husband had to listen to me talk about it for ages. I'm literally looking at put your questions for AJ in the chat. Trying to say AJ. My poor husband had to listen to me talk about it just for ages, hemming and hawing and trying to figure out who this person is going to be. And I think the decision I finally made for that character is really what inspired the twist, because I was like, and that's like one of the bigger twists, and you don't actually find out, sorry, you won't find out till the 3rd book what the real answer is with that character. But that's like one of the bigger twists at the end. There's also another twist that's like the main story. That was just an absolute necessity, or the story didn't make sense. So I couldn't even say something inspired it other than that just that's where the story really had to go. Otherwise, the characters couldn't get where they needed to. That was very vague.
Twist.
But what else am I going to say, right?
Right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Works. All right, next one. Do you have a favorite character in book 2?
Favorite character in book 2? I mean, I think Harper's always going to be my favorite character, but we of course introduce some new characters. And so I love where Matthew's adoptive mom, Anna Aaron, I love where her character goes. She sort of develops into somebody bigger than you expected her to be. And then there's also, I'm trying to decide which one's my favorite between these two. There is a character named Ching, and she is, her name is Mandarin. She's Chinese, and she is just sort of wild to get to know. So like at first you're going to think she's really annoying, but then you start to understand what's going on with her, and she becomes just such an important centerpiece to the group.
I love side characters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially when you get that cultural aspect that affects kind of the other characters around them. It's a really nice touch.
Yeah. She was fun to write.
I bet. Any hints about book 3?
Ooh, if you haven't read books 1 and 2, I mean, I'll tell you, book 3 is the last book. It wraps it up. It wraps it up nicely. We are expecting it in 2027, probably around this time, February, March, though the date's not set. It will take you places you didn't expect to go. It will reveal things deeper, more horrifying than you saw coming. And there's a lot of little characters that you may have forgotten about.
Oh.
That will make a reappearance, and you'll find that they're more important than you thought, which I always said. My husband and I always joked, okay, so before I found out the things about J.K. Rowling that I don't enjoy, we loved Harry Potter, and the books were coming out, kind of alongside the movies as they were coming out. And so, like characters like Dobby, you thought they weren't that important, so they only put him in one movie, and then the last movie comes out and he's back, and I'm like, I hadn't read all the books yet, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Hi. And so we used to joke that, if I ever wrote a book series and they were turning it into movies before it was done, I would write in some small little character that they thought was nothing and they'd leave out. And then it got huge at the end.
Don't do it, AJ.
I try to bring a lot of things circle in that 3rd book. Some really, really devastating things happen, but everything does work out. Some of it's devastating, some of it's hard, some of it's just absolutely horrific, but it'll work out in the end. And you get to see where the characters end up as adults.
So Jeremy says, how does the world play into character development?
Hugely. Yeah, so I mean, in this first book, they're in this little like cult village. They believe they're the only people left on Earth. And so, I mean, it's just this really rural community, like 300-ish people. Well, there's actually 2 communities like that are not aware of each other. So there's dual storylines, and you're trying to figure out throughout the book how the 2 are connected. We do the dual storyline thing throughout the series. So each book has a dual storyline. And then the third book, you get some of the answers you're looking for. I'll tell you that, to some of the mysteries. And I hope it's not a disappointment because it's very different than what you thought it was.
Of course.
I mean, why wouldn't it be, right? But, there has to be explanations for things. You can't just leave things not making sense. People are after me for answers. So there's going to be some answers in the third book. Sorry, how does the world play into character development? That's the question I'm answering. So yeah, like this is a very isolated rural place. And I mean, that world is everything. The world controls everything for the characters. These are orphans who are raised to be sacrificed to this cult's gods. And everybody in the village is in on it. Everybody follows this religion. It's all there is. It's all anybody knows. And the characters would not be who they were in a different environment because they're raised to be sacrificed. Like they sacrifice 10 orphans every 10 years. And so these kids don't grow up. They're not expecting to grow up. Now, they don't know it's sacrifice at first. They believe they're just going to be sent to live with the gods. But they can kind of sense that something about that isn't great, even though they try to make it sound great. And so because they're not being raised to be adults, like we raise kids to be adults, to have adult lives, to look at careers and interests and all the things. Well, these kids don't have that because they're never expected to grow up. And so even at 13, 14 years old in the first book, they're very innocent. They're very childlike in some ways still. I'll tell you that's normal for teenagers. Teenagers are half grown-ups and half kids. And they still, they like stuffed animals. They like stickers. They like kid things still, even though they don't always want their friends to know. These are kids that aren't being raised to adulthood. They're very childlike in some ways. And again, I've had some readers read that and not really understand why. But if I'm not raising a kid to be an adult who's going to, maybe consider getting married, having a family, having a career, I'm going to raise them differently.
Yeah.
And then in the second book, their environment changes so much. And that really changes who they are because all their options change. So yeah, without the world, they'd be completely different characters.
Option change.
That was a good question. I'm glad I actually knew how to answer it.
You always do a really good job answering the questions.
Yeah. I sure try.
Okay, AJ, it's our favorite time. It's rapid fire time. So
we could actually wrap in it. Yes, the religion is the story. And it does go through. It goes through all 3 books. I actually describe it as dystopian folk horror because it's dystopian, but this cult and, sacrifice to the gods, it's got a very folk horror, Midsummer, Wicker Man kind of vibe to it. And there's somewhat shifts like the balance. So in the first book, 2/3 of the book is about that cult. And it sort of shifts where it's more like 1/3 is about it in the second book. And then in the third book, it just kind of all comes together.
Okay. Coffee, tea, or something else while writing?
Water with electrolytes.
Good.
I know. I'm like, I try to be healthy.
As I drink an energy drink over here from the coffee shop.
Trying to lose 30 pounds before this book comes out, and I'm a third of the way there. But energy drinks would not help me with that.
No, they would not. I can attest to that.
Agua. I'm doing that.
Plotter or pantser?
A plotzer. I plot it all out. I think I know what I want. I know where I'm starting and the main points throughout. And then everything changes as I write it because my characters want to go a different direction. So I'm somewhere in the middle.
I was going to say, I think AJ was the one who officially dubbed it a planter first time on here. So
yeah, I'm in the middle. I do both. I can't not plot first because the thoughts get all jumbled up in my head. So I have to write an outline, but I'm not going to guarantee I follow it. I don't plot that well. I'm not one of those a different spreadsheet for every character kind of authors. Though that would have made the second and third books easier.
But it's your world. You can do what you want. So
yeah, there you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite writing snack?
Really snack much. Not a snack. That goes into the trying to lose weight thing anyway, but
Right.
yeah, I don't snack a lot. When I do, I like pistachios or like baby carrots, cheese cubes, healthy things, I guess.
I've been doing grapes and cheese a lot recently. I don't
Yeah.
know why. It's just really good.
Yes, it is.
one.
You know what I like is cheddar and raw cauliflower.
Interesting.
I think it tastes so good together. I have no idea if anyone would agree with that, but
If you haven't tried it, try it. I haven't tried it. We'll see. Dark mode or light mode?
I think it depends on the device.
Yeah.
I do a lot of dark mode. Like dark mode's always on my phone, but I don't usually do that like in my writing app. So I guess light mode when I'm writing.
Mine's all
Ex-
dark.
I do. I try to set an atmosphere sometimes, especially if I'm having a hard time like getting into like the world and the right space. Like writing Never Say Neverland, I have sometimes turned out all the lights and put on like creepy music box music on Spotify. Amazing the different kinds of music you can find.
Yeah.
And it helps me get in the headspace. So all the light I have is the computer.
So excited for that one.
I know I gotta get it finished so people can actually read it.
Sorry. We're so excited. Character you'd never want to meet in real life. Yours or somebody else's.
But Peter Pan, definitely don't want to meet that dude. Is there anybody in the Sovereign series? Okay, so in Elysium, you'll be introduced to Dr. Tori, Dr. Victoria Taylor. She's a very sweet, wonderful character for a while. But eventually, I'd kind of like to slap her.
So maybe you would like to meet her, but
I don't know.
only
I wouldn't want to
like
meet her, but I would
slap.
like to, give her a good one right there.
Seconds just to like show her how you really feel.
That's right. Or there's another character, and I don't want to tell you who it is because that'll really ruin some things. But there's another character that in Elysium you really, really like. But in book 3, you find out she's not as awesome as you thought. She's not like a villain, but she's at odds with some things that need to happen.
My daughter and I just recently watched all 3 Maze Runner movies, and I feel like that describes Teresa in Maze Runner.
I could see
Made
that.
me angry. I'd have to say, oh my goodness.
Yep.
I think we already answered this. Writing playlist, silence, or music?
Music for sure. I kind of can't do anything without music, I feel like. And it has to fit the mood of the book.
Paperback, hardcover, or audiobook?
For me personally, I like to read hardcovers the best.
That's some heavy reading.
Because I don't, so this is my like social media copy of Sovereign. Can you see how warped it is?
Yeah,
I flipped through it, but I like a physical copy and a hardcover doesn't do that.
true.
Also, I worked at a library for a good long while in high school, college, and man, the hardcovers just last longer.
If I'm
They can take more abuse.
I like
What is-
hardcover. If I'm displaying them, I like hardcovers. Like if I'm
Yeah.
buying a book to like keep, it's gonna be a hardcover. But to sit down and read it, I hate holding a hardcover.
I just put my knees up and set it in my lap.
Well,
It works.
see, there's a problem there. I'm a fat, fluffy girl, and my knees don't go up that high.
Whatever.
I'd be like,
Fond of that.
Gotta do your stretches before you sit down to read.
Right. But I also really struggle with audiobooks.
I do too.
Visual component, like they are great for some people and not great for others. And I'm one of the ones they're not great for. I
I'm
get
not
so
really an
distracted. My brain
auditory
is everywhere,
learner.
and I don't process anything if it's just auditory.
Exactly.
I could read along with it, but then I'd
Mhm.
be frustrated that it's not fast enough.
Yep, that is
But-
me.
I will say though, my books actually, they come in Kindle, so you can get an ebook, but they only come in paperback as far as physical copies, and there are no audiobooks just yet. If the books get really, really popular, then it would be worth the audiobook investment. But they say it costs like $4,000 on average to produce an audiobook. So, no audiobook unless the success demands it. You know what I mean? And that just makes good business sense to me. But the reason that they're only in paperback is because hardcovers are a lot more expensive. And my books are written for teenagers. Now, a lot of adults read them and enjoy them, but it was important to produce books that teenagers could afford to buy if they wanted to buy it with their own money. And so they're not, we don't waste the money on a hardcover production that doesn't make sense for the audience.
Completely understandable. And if there's any audio book recording talent in the session right now, and if you want to like do a freelance help AJ out for some teens, reach out. You
People
never
ask me
know.
all the
You
time
never
if it's
know.
an audio, and I know that's a great format for a lot of teenagers. Well, of course, because I work with kids, right? And before I was a school counselor, I was a reading interventionist. I was teaching dyslexic kids to read.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need an audiobook, but it's just it's not a viable option when you're first starting out.
So if you want to help,
boys.
I mean, I would love to have an audiobook for all those reasons to make it more accessible, but like, what are you going to do? We got to have a lot of people read the physical copies first.
I'd
What
be
do you
like
think?
a terrible narrator. They walked into the woods and then something jumped out at them. What? What jumped out at them? Like, I'd be
that's not bad audio narration. That's good.
I'd be freaking out
Entertaining.
the whole time. It'd be terrible.
Okay.
What are you doing, Ashley? Just read the next line. You'll find it.
What are you doing? Read faster.
Shut
All right, back to what was our rapid fire fictional world you would live in for a day.
Well, I gotta say, honestly, I know I'm still not like J.K. Rowling as a person, not a huge fan, but I would definitely live in Hogwarts for a day. I would.
I mean, we could just
Yeah.
modern day Scotland and check out all the scenes, and then
That's
but
right.
that's
I mean, I would love to talk to some headless ghosts. I mean, great.
You guys talk, I'm running.
nearly headless and Nick's not scary. What do you mean?
Ghosts, man.
I would love to have a ghost in my house. I need a haunted house to live in. We need to talk to some scary dead people.
AJ, come live in my house.
Figure out what their unfinished business is. You know what I mean? I got some books coming about that too, but I have to figure out which ones I'm writing first,
Finish mine, so we're good.
I know, I'm getting close. I got to have more time to work on it. I haven't had a ton of time the last week or so, but
Okay, last rapid fire. Biggest writing distraction.
everything. ADHD. Oh man, literally I will sit down and I'll start writing and then I'll think of like there could be like movement on the other side or I mean whatever. I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't finish this thing. I have to go finish that thing." And then I don't officially have ADHD, but I'm very distractible at times, which is why sometimes turning out the lights, putting on noise canceling headphones with the moody music, that helps me. Yeah, I don't have a specific distraction. It's just literally anything that might happen around me or pop into my head.
Just like life in general.
Everything.
Writing distraction. Yes.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I
All
do.
right. Well, that was it for our questions, AJ. We are so happy that you joined us again and that we were
Thank you
able to
for
do it
having
on
me.
TikTok because it was fun. We will post the recording for the TikTok later on, I think in a week or so you guys will be able to view it later. But before we wrap up, where can everybody find you and maybe pre-order Elysium before it comes out in
Yes.
March?
My books are available. Of course, there's a list of everywhere you can buy them on my website, which is easy, ajwhitneybooks.com. You can order signed copies directly from me on the website. They say free shipping. They cost a little more because they're signed, but it also helps me cover the shipping costs. Not a lot more, though. They're also available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, pretty much anywhere you can buy books online. Even like I've seen Sovereign on Target and Walmart even. So whoever you like to support, it should be available there. You can also go to your local indie bookstore and ask them to order it and they will do that. Sovereign is available all the places. Elysium pre-orders really only started popping up online yesterday. So I know it's at least available Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I put it on my website, but it like hasn't loaded in yet. So if you want a signed copy, like check back. It will exist, I swear. I just have to figure out why WooCommerce isn't showing up with it yet. More links will be added as we go. I also have a link at each of my book pages, links to a Read Local page, and that page will show you any independent bookstores, any libraries that I'm aware of that carry the book. Because it's in pre-orders for Elysium, those just say coming soon because nobody can carry it quite yet. There's also a form at the bottom of that page. So if you have a bookstore or a library, if you're aware of anybody who carries the book, you can fill out that form at the bottom to let me know so that I can add them to the list because I want people to know if this is available where you live.
Amazing. I love it.
And I also love to plug my email newsletter. I know you guys get it every week. I send out emails weekly. We do a lot of exclusive book lore. it is my newsletter, but it'll say on the website, request access to the Sovereign's secret files, because you do get access to 4 secret files that are not available anywhere else, things that are not in the book. First week of every month, I send out an email with lore. Like just last week, I believe it was a transcript of an audio recording that was uncovered, and nobody else gets to read those things unless you're on my newsletter. And then, I just kind of like to send emails to you like we're buddies and we're having a conversation. And I love to talk to people. You can reply to my emails and they come to a real person. They come straight to me, not like a personal assistant, not my editor. And I will talk with you about whatever you want if you can reply to any of my emails. So I just love being able to connect with people that way.
Actually really look forward to your newsletters.
Oh, I'm so glad.
They make me happy.
All right. Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and listening in and asking your questions to AJ and participating in the TikTok Live. We will have more coming up in the next few weeks. Otherwise, we will see you on the next episode of the Weekly Mash. Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everybody.
Thanks, AJ.
Thanks, you guys. It was great to talk to you again.
You too.
Bye, guys.